Good afternoon, YouTube. Hope everybody's having a great day. I've got just a little cold down here, but just hanging out in the 7 Saturdays workshop. And I thought I'd come to you and talk to you today about air compressors. I don't know why this was on my mind, but I've used the air compressor a lot lately, and I just wanted to explain some of the basics to you in case you're in the market for one, yours is getting old, or you upgrade. Of course, they come in many different flavors. They got little tiny ones, you got big ones, you got diesel powered, you got um, different kind of motors, but essentially they're pretty basic machines. You've got a motor unit here, you've got a compressor up here that actually compresses the air. You have a tank down here. Now the tanks vary in size, of course, but this is an 8-gallon, and which is sufficient. And then you've got a control box, and you got what's called a regulator. And I will explain each one of those, as we go. All compressors need those same things. So if you're looking for a compressor, don't worry about the individual things. You want to look at a couple of numbers. Now, horsepower doesn't really matter, okay? PSI, pounds per square inch, doesn't really matter, okay? Obviously, you want 120 volt or 240 volt, probably 120 volt, okay? But the number you want to look for is cubic feet per minute, CFM, okay? You're going to have cheap ones that are going to be down to 1.3 CFM. This one is 5.1, which is pretty good for a homeowner unit. You can get more. This is also about 35 years old, and it's still running really, really strong. So all of them will come up with 120 pounds of pressure. You can get 120 pounds of pressure with one of these if you're strong enough. And of course, this does not have a tank, but this is your pump. Okay, you've got a pump on an air compressor. This is your motor. It's actually in your arms, so you're doing that. And of course, you've got a gauge here. They don't have a regulator, but same type of thing. Also, if you're looking for an air compressor, make sure that a tire inflator is not just as much as what you need. So a tire inflator is one of these. This is an actual battery operated one. Now this has a compressor, okay, but it doesn't have a tank, and it takes a little bit of while. There's not a lot of CFM here, so it takes a while, but you can set your gauge. The regulator and gauge is built in, and you can do that. Now this is not going to be used for spray painting or spray painting the fence or stain or anything like that, or running air tools. That's what you need an air compressor for. So those two serve the inflating purpose of a air compressor or compressed air. Now, why a big tank? Okay, you got small ones, you got big ones. Big tank is if you're using a lot of air. So if you're doing like roofing or you're doing air tools that take a lot of air, now not pressure, that's different than pressure, but air, a lot of cubic feet of air, okay, you want a bigger tank. This one works good for me. The little small ones are fine. You also can have in your hoses, whatever kind of hose that you use. Here's a wind-up hose that you can use. Here's I've got one of those little coily hoses, and you can see by here, I have 3 hoses on here. Now, not like electricity, okay, you have to worry on electricity, how many extension cords you run off electricity. On air, that's the beauty of air, is you don't have to worry about how many hoses you have on it, because actually each hose acts like a tank. It's more of a storage tank. So when your motor's running, it fills up all the available space that it has, whether it be in hoses or whether it be in the tank. It just keeps pumping that air until it gets to the pressure. And as it pumps, it gets to that pressure, that 125 pounds. That's when your control box kicks in. The control box has a valve in it, and it says, oh, 125 PSI, shut that motor down. Then as you use the compressor, okay, the more air you have, the bigger tanks you have, the longer it will take for it to come back on. And of course, you're using electricity to pump up the motor, or you're using gas or whatever type that it does. But this is what the control box does. Now the control box also has a regulator. Okay, a regulator will tell you this one you can't. It's a little hard to see, but I got 2 gauges on here. Most air compressors do. You've got a gauge that's the tank pressure. That's how much is in the tank. You also have a regulator that is the hose pressure. So I shoot a little bit of automotive finishes with a spray gun. Also, some of the smaller nailers. Okay, they require less pressure. You don't want to put 125 pounds through that, which is the max of this tank. Okay, you want to use, so this regulator, I have a knob that I turn, and then it sets it down to 30 pounds for my high volume sprayer, or I can use 60 pounds for my brad nailer, and those two. Usually, as if I'm just blowing off the workshop or blowing out the thing or airing up a tire, I don't use the regulator, and it's just turned all the way up to the full tank pressure, which is about 125 pounds. Now, you also have a safety valve in the tank that if the regulator doesn't work, the safety valve is going to go off. So very little danger in these over exploding unless you've gone in and messed with the regulator. No need to do more than 125 pounds. I mean, maybe some bicycle tires or other things, but for homeowner stuff. The other thing the tank has is you battle with air, you battle with water. There's moisture in the air, so the moisture floats to the bottom. What that does is that causes rust in the tank. So I won't flip this over, but on the bottom, and most all of them, matter of fact, don't get one unless it does have a drain valve. But every once in a while, you want to drain that valve, drain that water out, and get it out. Now, this one at about 35 years old, probably some rust at the bottom, but that's okay because the rust is going to eventually eat through it. But if you drain it, I drain it probably once a year, and plenty of it comes out. And of course, there's all different kinds of tips you can use. You can use air tip, you can use a squeeze gun, an air gun to blow stuff off, and that all works really good. But we talked about the inflator, but the number that you wanted, let me go back to this, and I want to emphasize this. What you're looking for is cubic feet per minute. So $100 from the big box store, small, looks kind of cool, 1.3 CFM. Not only is that coming out of the hose, but that's actually coming out of the pump. Okay, not the motor. The motor's driving the pump. The pump is compressing air. Okay, here's the manual pump. Okay, so it's pumping that air. That pump, the efficiency of that pump and how big that pump is, if it's turning slow at 1.3, it will take a long time to fill up your tank. And if you're using a lot of air, this thing's going to run continuously. Not only the noise, but of course the power, and the light. So CFM, this is a 5.1. 5 is really good. That's what you want to shop for. So equal price. You're not going to get high CFM for $99. You're just not. You're also, if you get one that's one of these tall configurations, okay, you may not be 5.1 CFM either, because the CFM is what costs money. The money is in the pump. It's not in the tank. The regulators are a dime a dozen, and the motor's an electric motor. Okay, but the CFM, so the pump. So spend your budget, on the pump. Now, different configurations of the tank. You can have big, tall ones if you got, depending on where you're at. I wouldn't worry too much. It doesn't mean I would take a 8-pound tank with a 5.1 CFM before I would take a 60-pound tank with a 2 CFM all day long. Now, they have hot dog style, which is more for contractors, so you can load it in and out and stuff like that. But basically, you want to do what you can store. But CFM, cubic feet per minute, that's what I want to leave you with. That's the number you shop for with air compressors. And then, of course, warranty and stuff like that. All these connections and regulators and gauges, you can all buy that separately and outfit that separately. These are all quick disconnects, okay? And so they work good, and you can put whatever attachment that you want on there. But regardless of the price, cheap is going to get you low CFM, cubic feet per minute. That means the air coming out, you'll use up that tank. You'll use up a smaller tank quicker, okay? And then it'll take a long time for it to pump up, okay? And also, it will take, if you're doing a lot of work, you're going to run out of steam, and you could drop that pressure on at the end of whatever you're using. So CFM is what you want. Hope this has been helpful. Leave your comments down below. Love talking to you, and hope everybody has a great day. Remember, CFM. Bye.